Well, hello, I'm 𝗍𝗶𝗱 𝗔𝗺𝗍𝐴. Welcome back. In this video, we're going to be covering the 𝗍𝗶𝗱 Templar 250 4-stroke dirt bike. We're going to be doing a bunch of upgrades, putting a nice budget spark arrestor in it. Going to be doing a battery, then modify a kickstand, and of course, we're going to be putting the Nibbi 30mm carb in. There's some do's and don'ts on these things, especially when it comes to the carb. You might want to save your fender from looking like the fender I have here. So watch the video. There'll be links to most of these parts down below. All these upgrades are super budget. Can definitely help the performance of your bike. And at the end of the video, we'll do it a little bit of trail riding and try out the new carb. And next video coming up should be a full trail riding review of the Templar 250. So enjoy the video. All right. So before we get tuned into this carb much, and we also have the other carb to try out on here, I'm going to put a spark arrestor in this thing. I like the way the pipe fits. It fits on here well. I don't feel like spending $300 or $400 on a nice FMF and having to cut it and modify it to fit this machine. This pipe is all stainless. It fits really well. I wouldn't know this product exists if it wasn't for Oregon Trail Rider. I'll put a link to his channel down below. I gave him a shout out in the last video. He found this product online. If I can find an Amazon, I will. I didn't have the right size at the time, so I'll at least put a link to this company. It's a small company out of BC, Canada. Comes with some Loctite here, Allen key, and it comes with a super nice little US Forest Service approved spark arrestor. So this is a little insert, and this actual tailpipe piece can come out of here. We're going to slide this insert in there. This is going to set you back about $100 online. I ordered mine on eBay. This kit that I measured for is a kit number 30. That's the size you're going to need for this bike, at least this model and at least this run. Show you what we're going to do. We're going to pull out this plug here, pull out a little Allen bolt here. This slides out and this one will slide in. Now try not to drop this down the pipe because it will slide down here, and unfortunately you have to take the whole pipe off to retrieve it. I did that last time. This should wiggle out now. There's a little end cap there, and here's the spark arrestor we're going to insert, and it does say US Forest Service approved. Might back these all the way out to make sure it's good coating. I don't really want this thing loosening up and rattling out when we're riding. This should work for being legal on the trails. Thinking that this pipe feels like it flows pretty well. So I just want to make sure that this bike is legal in case I get stopped on any trails. I have a spark arrestor and I won't be getting a ticket for that. And won't be having to worry about catching any woods on fire in the summertime. Win-win, and it's $100 rather than $300 to $400 in modifying a pipe. Just turning all these in so they're equal turns in, so it's kind of centered in here. All right, just gotta torque them down now and hope this thing doesn't fall out. Bingo, US Forest Service approved. So next thing I want to address is this kickstand. It comes out at a super steep angle and it cuts up here, and it cuts up nice and high. A little bit floppy, but the biggest problem is your heel can come up on it. If you're riding, not paying attention, you can actually push it down a bit. Mainly it's because of this giant spring. If anything, we'll try to get a smaller spring that works for it, but I'm going to take it off. I end up ordering a aftermarket KTM kickstand. One of the main reasons I went for this one is because it has a removable foot, so in case I have to, because I for sure have to cut it down, I can drill and tap and put the foot shorter, because this one's a lot longer. Came with some really nice hardware, totally different mount than this one, and instead of being straight, it's actually got a kind of a cant to it, so we're going to see if we can address that, maybe sand this down, change the angle of it. But I'm going to jump in here, fab it up, and come back once I get it fitted, kind of explain what I had to do. I don't think it's going to be just a bolt-on. Actually, I know it's not going to be just a bolt-on situation. This is probably not for everybody out there unless you have some shop tools and you really like jumping in and playing around and fiddling with this stuff. If you don't have those skills, just stick with the stock kickstand. So I think with some modifications this is going to work, but I wish this was a straight kind of a mount here, because this is already tweaked out the way they welded this mount on here. I don't really want to cut and weld too much on the frame if I don't have to. It looks like a nice angle here. It's of course too long, but when it folds up, I don't like that it's swinging out away from the bike more. Even if it folds up high, I'd rather it be tucked in further. So what I'm gonna do is take this thing to the belt sander and sand this down. I could chuck it up into my milling machine, but I don't really feel like it. It's just a simple bike kickstand. So we're gonna grind this down a little bit. So at this point, I decided to go a little caveman on it with a hammer, bent the mount in just a little bit. I just wanted to change the angle of it. Didn't really want to get out the welder and start cutting and welding on it. And I changed plans and mounted the kickstand on the inside of the hanger instead of the outside. All right, got that KTM kickstand basically almost mounted. I'm going to finish off the rest of the mounts here and fine tune a few things, but I want to fill you guys in. I'm not going to go over crazy detail on this because it's going to take a little trial and error for you. I will put a link to the kickstand I ordered because it had a removable foot on it. I cut off about 2 3/4 of an inch. That's going to vary with the preload of your bike, so you're going to have to fine tune it. I mounted the kickstand on the inside of the frame and ground down some components in here, especially the stainless steel insert with the O-rings on it to tighten this up so there's not much play here. I used the stock kickstand bolt, came with the stock kickstand, and I'm going to modify the nut on the back with a nylock to fit in the taper. And I put a small 1/4 inch washer down here and bought a longer stainless M5 bolt for this. This was components that came with it. Made this component that's going to go up here. Countersink the frame to run a nice stainless bolt. I don't want anything to hang up on my riding pants. Again, this is going to take some trial and error. Had to do a little grinding so it nests right up into here to get the correct angle so it stays down when it's down. And did a little grinding here so when it's up, it stays up at a nice angle. I'm pretty happy with it so far. So like I said before, this isn't a full tutorial how to mount one of these KTM kickstands, but it's a lot nicer aluminum kickstand. It's got most of the components that come in the kit. As long as you mix and match and are willing to fine tune it. I can't walk you through on everything on the steps on here, but I'll show you what I did, and I'm not going to be able to answer a bunch more questions. So look over the video. If it's not something you think you can take on, just figure something out with your kickstand or just run the stock one. So there it is. Down position. It doesn't stick out too far. Definitely clears your heel a lot better than the old kickstand. You can tend to see to push your heel on it and knock it down. It's got better spring load pressure, and all that spring load is determined by where you make this bracket. So I might fine tune and build another bracket on here, but I'm pretty happy with the spring load it has. You can see there's that stock bolt. This is where I extended out a 1/4 inch to clear it. Nice and smooth. Definitely a win. So, weather's been terrible. I haven't done much updates on this bike in a while because it's just been late winter, early spring, and just raining and wet and snow. But just so happens, weather's okay tomorrow. And my friend, I sold him my old KTM after getting this in the 150. He wants to go ride. Weather looks okay. And I want to put on this Nibbi carb tonight. Kind of rushing it because it's like almost 10 p.m. and we're going to be going riding around 11 in the morning. Doesn't give me a ton of time to tune it in the morning. And I'm going to put this light battery because I already have to get in there and take the seat off. So I've had these parts sitting around here for a few months. I already put the spark arrestor in, as you probably saw in the video. But with that being opened up a little bit, I'm sure the stock carb already running lean is probably even more lean. So we're going to pop this stuff apart, try to get this thing on, and cross our fingers to get tuned right before I have to go ride in the morning. So let's get to it. Well, that took a matter of, I think, 10 minutes total, if that, to take off the seat, the tank, grab the tools, pop the carb out. As you guys saw, I pulled it straight out from the side here. Saw a few posts about people talking about taking the whole subframe off, taking the airbox out, taking parts of exhaust off. It's really not that tight. I'm sure the other one will go back in okay. This isn't the most flexible boot. It's like Chinese rubber, so it's a little bit like plastic rubber. It's nothing compared to trying to remove a stack of 4 carbs and an inline 4 on like a 40-year-old motorcycle. Putting a whole stack of a bank of 4 carbs in something and removing them on an old street bike is miserable. This was a piece of cake. Now look over this carb here, look over a few differences. I might pop this float bowl off. It's got these sealed screws on here, so you have to cut slots in them to remove them. Yeah, you can rejet these things, I think, and fine tune them. But what I realized on the 𝗣𝗶𝗱, what was it, Storm 150, that even though I got in there was some funkiness with the idle jet, and I think you got to modify and shim. The needle's not adjustable with the little C-clip. You have to shim it up with like a little washer, and I'm just going the Nibbi. It's a better route. It's 2 millimeters bigger. This is a 28, and that's a 30. You can take a look what the stock jetting was, so I can make sure to go a little bit bigger than that to start off with for my baseline jetting. So it's got this little choke pull. I may retain that. I like that style, but if it's too hard to reach in there, then I'll stick with the stock motorcycle on the handlebar choke pull. It does supposed to be 30, but here's one big difference is the intake port. This is much smoother. This is more of a rough casting with a smooth polished bore inside, but this is a polished bore all the way through. Both of them had nice polished slides, but overall, definitely a nicer polish all the way up. This one they polished to a point and it goes kind of hazy in here. I don't think that's going to be a make or break on it. You know, this one's got Allens to take the float bowl off. This one's got peened over hardware that is like basically tamper proof. So yeah, the Nibbi 30mm seems like the right choice. It's only about $70. Links below it if you want to check those out. It's a lot easier than cutting off this hardware here, cutting slots into them. Not only are they tamper proof, they also put red Loctite, so they're really hard to torque out of there. Even once you get flathead slots cut in, you got to replace the hardware, got to order a jet kit. The Nibbi comes with extra jets right off the bat, and the choke enrichment valve is definitely richer on the Nibbi. The bike starts right up and idles great when it's cold. Definitely not digging those tamper-proof screws on this one. All right, looks like it had a 120 for the main. Man, those tamper-proofs. Good old tamper-proofs with some Loctite, those bastards. So it looks like a 40 idle jet and a 120 main. All right, on to the Nibbi. One other nice little thing about the Nibbi is it comes with a main and idle jet, of course, in the carb, and it comes with 1 other idle jet and 3 other mains. I have a big old box of these jets, but if you don't have jets, it's one less thing you need to order because it comes with like the ballpark. I think this is rated for like 250 to 300, they claim. So we're gonna pop this thing open, see what jets are in it. All right, looks like it comes with the 40 idle jet, same as other carb. But the main jet it comes with, God, that's hard to say. It's either a 123 or 128. I think 123 sounds like a weird size. I think it's a 128, which that might be about perfect. Check what the bag has in it here. I think we're gonna stick with the 40 idle because that's a 35 for like a smaller displacement. And 122, 125, 130. All right, let's go stick with that 128 because we did open up the exhaust. There's also that cat down here we're going to probably try to remove, but not tonight. We don't have enough time. Because we pulled the float bowl off the stock carb, we knew it was running lean. We went for a 128 main in this carb rather than a 120. Keep in mind, we opened up the exhaust a little bit from stock, pulling out that restrictor tube and putting in the spark arrestor. Keep in mind, I had to pull out that big chunky knob on this one, the idle adjustment knob, because it would not fit in this way without getting that out of there. That's the only thing I really don't like about this carb is that giant idle adjustment knob. No reason for it, and a little problem comes up later about that. We'll mention that, but got it in there. I was hoping to retain the original choke, but couldn't retain the original choke pull. So I checked it. I was hoping I could just keep this simple. I like the simple style plunger pull, but I'm gonna probably keep for now this cable just because it's pretty buried back there in the frame. I don't think it's gonna be that easy to get to. Maybe from this side, but I don't know. I'll deal with that later. I just don't want to be fiddling with it too much. Especially I have to put the tank on here and just going to run the cable. Definitely not digging this. I had to take out that idle adjustment big knob here to get the carb in, but I'm realizing it's hitting the frame. So I'm gonna see if I can swap out this one. I can't get the carb straightened out here, so I'm gonna see if I can swap out this one with the stock idle adjustment screw that came with the stock carb. So do not make this mistake. Deal with that chunky red knob, maybe grind it down so you can fit it and clear the frame. Do not put the stock carb idle adjustment screw in there. There's a problem. It arises very shortly, and I'll explain a little bit more in a moment. Kind of a nice needle. I don't think I've ever seen one. It looks like it's got some type of like almost like a ceramic coating on it. It's kind of a off gray color, but it looks like they have the clip in the center position. So we're just gonna roll with that. One thing to note, if you're really in a pinch and you don't got it, run this line for now, but get this stock fuel filter and the stock rubber line off that carb within the first few months. One thing I've noticed with Chinese products is they can't make rubber or plastic very well. It degrades pretty quick. So go to a motorcycle shop, get yourself a decent motorcycle high-end fuel filter, get some decent quality fuel line at a motorcycle shop. You don't want the splitting on the trail and leaking on the motor. It's just not worth it. So there we go. Kept the same throttle cable routing. We'll check and make sure that works on here. I don't see why it won't. As you saw, brought the carb out this direction and in this direction. I got rid of the red knob on here before I even installed it. Once I got it in, I put the idle mixture screw, put the idle screw back in. So just make sure our drain line is routed down below the motor here. Get this thing put together and fire it up. Oh, another thing we need to do is we need to get in here, and I really didn't get to ride this bike that much this winter, so I need to pull the air filter out and spray some air filter oil on it. This air filter looks almost identical to my KTM XCW 200. It's pretty nice. It's a big wide surface, pretty good design. It sits at kind of a 45 on the bike, and like I said before in the other video, this thing's frame resembled a lot of my 2014 KTM that I had. I heard other people say that the company got the rights to design those older KTM frames. Who knows? There we go. And oil this thing up, get it back in there. If you ride much, just treat yourself to one of these kits. That came with the air filter oil cleaner. You spray it on there for when you clean them, and a filter spray on oil. Makes it a lot easier, so treat yourself. If I can find them in the link on Amazon, I'll put them in there. If not, just go to a motorcycle shop. Just pay attention to orientation with that little notch down piece of plastic. It has to fit in a very specific way to the air box for it to seal properly. So while I'm in here, I'm going to swap out this stock battery, which was never very good, never really cranked over very well, with these ultralight. These are anti-gravity batteries. They work extremely well. I put one in the storm. I weighed out the difference. I can't remember. I'll put the difference right over here, a few pounds at least, but super light. Nice terminals. Comes with some foam pads. So yeah, let's swap this thing out. Like I said, this one's gone down flat on me a few times and let the bike sit for a month, and then it had to be charged a little bit. So these stock batteries that come with these bikes are never very good. They'll work, but there's other batteries out there if you're willing to spend a little bit. They're just not cheap though. That was like about $100, $110 battery, but shouldn't have to mess with it for 4+ years. So So it was pretty late. I got the bike back together around midnight and I just idled it. I didn't want to mess around with revving it out much and tuning it and waking neighbors up. But I did feel like the carb did not spring back great all the time. Like it would spring back. I got the slider in place just correctly, but it felt a little funky, like it was hanging up on occasion. So I just figured I'd get up early in the morning, try to tune it before I rode it. Had some mishaps in the morning. So what I think the culprit might be, I don't know if this top cap and that one's the same height or the carb body's a little taller. I didn't get a chance to measure that. Didn't expect anything to be different. But I didn't change the cable routing at all in here. I kept it the same way it was. I think the culprit is this guy right here. If I had a metal bend, I think it wouldn't hang up as much. So what I'm gonna do is keep the same routing it had, but because I didn't have any problems when you turn the handlebars with it revving, but I think I'm gonna give it a little more slack by pulling the cable down and push it in and zip tie it and double check that's gonna hold, because I think it just keeps kind of wanting to pull this direction and I want it to sit straight up because I think that's the bend and the culprit, but sketchy, definitely a little sketchy. Well, I was dealing with a little bit of a throttle hang up on occasion, played around with the routing and the wiring. Issue might be this car might be a hair taller and it feels like it's creasing the throttle cable a little bit. And I kept riding around doing some wheelies on the driveway and it hung up. Damn it, loop out special. Well, I was planning to do a fender eliminator on this thing anyhow. It already did that, but let's see if I can bend this framework back here. I do have another tail light too, so dang. Well, a little bit of cutting and welding and I got this sorted out. One good thing is I got around to my fender eliminator. Yeah, I had to cut these guys off and re-weld them on. And surprisingly, for having that fender bent to a 90, it just creased the sticker and barely changed the color of the plastic. Plastic responded way better flattening right out than I thought. So that's pretty good. Well, right before I left, I gave it one big twist on the throttle and it's stuck. Something's going on. I think there's almost a burr in that damn slider, because it's got it basically stuck wide open. What the hell, man? That's not good. Yeah, that sucker's stuck. And you could feel when you pull it up tight towards full throttle, it would just kind of bind and then it just stuck. So something's not right in there. Damn it. So I found the culprit. It wasn't the carb, wasn't anything. That idle adjustment screw I put on here caused it to burr the slide and burr the floor here a little bit. That idle adjustment screw out of that different carb had a slightly different shape. It was rounded, another one was tapered. So I'm gonna see if I can get that idle adjustment screw to fit back in here, the stock one, but there's not much frame clearance. So I'm gonna file that burr down and clean it and see how it is. Sketchy. Don't swap out the stock idle adjustment screw for the aftermarket one. I did notice the difference in taper last night, but did not think that was going to be an issue because it worked in the stock carb. Definitely not the case. So far, after getting that sticking issue sorted out in the carb, man, it does feel a bit more responsive. I think it's a definitely decent upgrade, but I don't like where that idle adjustment thumb screw is at. Definitely got higher pressure than I should in the tires out here. On my KTM, I always ran tubeless, low pressure, and gummy tires. And this thing, I got the stock tires that came on at like road pressure. I think I got like 18 or something pounds in the front, probably 16 or 15 in the rear. Definitely a little marbly. Little slick in the corners. Yeah, Mike. Here's my XCW 200. Sold this to Mike this winter. Felt like the best way for me, I've been kind of contemplating getting a 4-stroke again, and the best way for me to get a lot of miles on these Chinese bikes to see how they hold up, this Templar 250 and the Storm DLX 150, was for me to just get rid of my trail bike, force myself to ride these ones, and honestly see how well they hold up. Definitely some better tires are going to be good. He's got gummies and stuff on his bike and tubeless. These are kind of really pulling the corners, but yeah, man, how's the 200 doing? Glad you got another trail bike, man. It's kind of a win-win there, right?
Yeah.
really haven't had much time on this bike. I think right now I only got 55 miles on it. Like, I got it late, I don't know, late December, early January. It just rained, snowed, weather was terrible. Every time I'd had a nice day, it was out when I was at work, get home and it'd be raining. So it feels good to get back out here. I mean, this trail's mucky, but they're starting to dry up, and get some time in on this machine. I want to try to give some pretty damn good reviews on how these bikes are holding up, what holds up, what breaks, what I fix, what I change, just so if anyone's looking to try one of these things out, for if you're smaller, or say you got a wife or girlfriend that is smaller. I'm only 5'7", so it fits me fantastic. It's a nice smaller size dirt bike. So far, the throttle response has been pretty good on this carb. Definitely feels a smoother, has a little bit more punch than the other carb. I mean, we're not talking much difference, but the other carb was just leaner. Could have been rejetted, but I thought, well, if I'm gonna get into there, I gotta grind off those screws, keep it. I mean, I got it, I can always go back, but I don't see a reason. Once I modify this idle adjuster screw, would be fine. Fit right on there, the boot and the air box, which was awesome. Really simple carb to put on here. I mean, it took like literally no tuning. I played with the air fuel mixture screw just a tiny bit, and I'm riding at probably 1,000 feet, maybe 1,200 feet, and anywhere from sea level up to probably 1,500 today, and it feels fine. I mean, keep in mind, this is like basically box stock, other than that carb adjustment. Pulled out the end cap on the exhaust and put a spark arrestor on there, put a little more preload in the shock, and total not that necessary, but just switched out the kickstand. I think that's all I did to it. So I mean, this is a bike that's sold on Amazon. You gotta be pretty realistic about it. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing. I already got some videos on this and the Storm, so go back on my channel, check them out. Get the bell icon, because YouTube's terrible at notifying my subscribers got new videos out. Speaking of that, next video is going to be a full trail ride. If you're thinking about buying the Templar 250 or already own it, it's going to be a full trail ride review video. So until next time, take care. Bye.